WFH with two guys. Now here's Benny and Dennis.
For most of the audience out there is a good chunk of us that do work from home, whether we're working for a company or running companies that have remote employees. This is here to stay. If COVID taught us anything, we know we can work from home. Dennis, there's very few people, though, that I think are actually doing this from a scale level.
Yeah. So, I think there's lots of people that are putting their toes in there and playing around with it. But today our guest, his company is 100% remote. And they've been doing it for 11 years. And they've got over 100 employees that do this worldwide. And I think Colin's going to share with us how Acklen Avenue has made this work. And some of the key things I heard was just the experimental part of it and just testing different things and constantly changing. And I think if you have remote workers, there's some good things you can learn. And if you are thinking about doing more with remote, Colin shares some really insightful thoughts that can help you figure out how you could proceed with that.
This is a real interesting case study for any of us thinking about doing this, or how do we apply it? How do we build culture? This is a great podcast. I love listening to this one. So have a listen. Core and part of the importance of this podcast, Dennis, is that we, of course, work remotely. I'm here in Colorado. Dennis is over in Tennessee. And the unique thing that I've learned in the decades-long amount of time that I've worked from home is it's amazing. It's fun. Now, do I miss out on a lot of things? 100%. And I think that there's so much by having a company work remotely from their homes that you really need to work a little bit extra so that you can develop that for your company.
Yeah, and I know, therefore during COVID we were all remote. Some companies have started going back, and some of them I think they're driving it because they have physical buildings that they can't get out of their leases, so they've got to have bodies in there. You'll hear studies that say, remote working is not productive. I don't agree with that. I mean, I know from our guest and from others that I have experienced and I personally experienced, remote working is very productive and works really well for those that buy into that culture of remote working.
Colin, listen, we needed to have the expert come in and we needed to really understand all about remote building of my company and the importance here. I think it's really the cornerstone of really being able to do it is culture when it comes to having a remote workforce, isn't it?
Yeah, I totally agree. We started with the idea of really it was selfish. It was to build a place just that was great for us, that brought out the best in us, where we could thrive. Because we noticed, Byron Sommardahl and I, my co-founder, we noticed that really we worked probably 3 or 4 times more effectively in the right conditions than we would otherwise. We could sit at a desk for 8 hours a day in a cubicle and not be super productive, but working with Byron, actually, he was one of the people that brought out the best in me. And so I was much more effective. And that's really why we started the company, was just for us. And that taste of autonomy and being able to affect the environment that we were working in was magical. It was a magical feeling.
And Colin, that was before COVID. So this was back in 2011, 12. So, I mean, it was early on. This was not COVID driven. This was you looking to see that, hey, there's a better way to work. And you and Byron had found that niche. Yeah.
And part of it was there are a whole lot of different aspects of it that I really liked about working remotely. One was I was a programmer, working at places around Nashville, and every now and then they would let us work remotely, but it was like maybe one day a week or
it was
a month
a treat,
or something
really,
like that.
It was
like a treat. Yeah. But I noticed I was very productive, but also it was really nice because my son went to school right across the street, and, I could walk him to school and get to work really quickly. And it was there was little errands and things like that. I went and read to his classroom when he was in kindergarten, and then walked back home after. And so those little things were that was the beginning of not being able to let it go, basically, when things get tough. Yeah.
So, Colin, let's fast forward to today. You've got today Acklen Avenue, which is your company. You have about 120 employees
Yep,
today.
that's correct.
So from 2 people to 120, are they all working in an office, or where are they at?
We've been 100% remote since 2011. We have an office in the Gulch, but really I'm the only person that goes there, and it's a co-working space. And I just, actually I only use the office to take naps at this point because I go sit out in the main
And so
room.
for everyone listening, the Gulch is a little area in Nashville. It's kind of like a cool little area over there. But one thing I do want to back up because I think this is worthwhile talking about. 120 employees, and let's kind of talk about this a little, Colin. That's not really how it was really designed at first. And, this wasn't a plan. So kind of move forward, go backwards a little bit and tell us a little story of how this all happened.
Yeah. And I know you guys laughed at me before when I said that really there was no plan. There was no plan for anything except
laughing with you. So.
Yeah, you were laughing. Exactly. Yeah. Hopefully. Yeah. But we, the only plan was to find customers and work the way that we liked to work. But then, we tried a lot of different things, but for the most part, we had a lot of happy accidents. Byron went down to Honduras that same year on a mission trip with his church. Actually, he had done that right before we started the businesses, and as a matter of fact. And he met a woman and decided to take Spanish lessons to ask her out, and asked her out, and she said no 10 times. And then he continued, and she said, all right, that's fine. And that's probably not the exact story, but he moved down there and stayed there, and he met a lot of people, developers working in Honduras, in the tech community down there. And we decided to try using some developers from Honduras on some of the projects that we had. And that was really the beginning of it. That was totally an accident. And, I think that I would bet that there are a lot of business owners that have had, stories like that it's just, we were just trying something and it just worked out that way. But it worked out really well because Byron and I had already been working remotely and doing what we call pair programming remotely. And so then we just added more people, and it just came naturally for us to be working remotely with all the people in Latin America.
So when it came to actually putting the company together, suddenly you're faced with, you have this team of programmers that are not in the United States. Byron really kind of was the driver behind doing that. And suddenly you've got these wonderful programmers kind of in the area where he happens to be. You got to start thinking about, okay, I got to start building this company and creating, a cohesive organization. What's kind of your next step when that all happens?
Well, we looked at what was working and what was not working. It's a trade-off to be working remotely. There are trade-offs, right? So there are things that you miss out on, such as sort of, the water cooler idea, where you bump into people at the water cooler and you have a conversation with them there. So you accidentally bump into somebody that's not in your immediate group, and it starts to create a culture. So what we did to try and recreate that was we started to have a yearly camp, what we called Camp Acklen. And everybody in the company went down to Honduras, and we met in some cool spot. One time we went to Roatan and we went snorkeling. And we spent several days together having conversations, learning things. So you got to know different people in different areas of the company. But that's just really once a year. So what we started to do was also have what we called togethers. And that was just, if you lived in one city and there were people pretty close to you, you would get together and just work with them for the day once a month. And we didn't stop them from doing that as often as they wanted to, but we were organizing these togethers. And, people would just get together and have lunch, and they'd work together and then maybe go to dinner after that. But that was sort of the beginning of just making sure that we were spending enough time face to face with each other.
And in those, I'm assuming you're trying to create culture. You're trying to create those relationships
Yep.
so that people can become friends. And even though you're not in the office every day, because of Zoom and everything else we have, they can still communicate and talk with each other and with Slack and keep up to speed and get to know one another compared to the water cooler.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you ever think, Colin, when as you were building this organization and obviously with Byron there, bringing some folks in, was there ever a talk about maybe we should go ahead and get an office and maybe develop that cultural that way in a traditional sense? Or did that not ever cross your mind?
Yeah, so many things crossed our mind. Over the years, I don't know how many thoughts I've had, but it's numbing at this point. So we definitely thought about that. We thought about getting an office in Tegucigalpa and San Pedro. So those are the two main cities that people were working in Honduras. And we were about to do it. And then someone in the company said, wait a minute, before you spend the money on this, which, is a good point for just polling everybody before you go ahead and do something like that. So then we did poll everybody, and it turned out that nobody really wanted a full-time office. They did want to just get together every now and then, or to have the option to go to a co-working space. So then we sponsored being able to go to a co-working space. If you just, it was a lot cheaper that way. So if somebody just wanted to go in the office one day a week, again, it wasn't an office, but it was a co-working space. Then they could meet there with their friends whenever they wanted to, and work. And we didn't get charged for keeping that office the entire time.
So in terms of like the core group of folks in Honduras in that area, I'm going to guess this time has gone on. So this is, we're talking as you're listening to this, we're recording this in 2024. Your company has matured and it's evolved. Are everybody still in Honduras, or do you have folks elsewhere that are employees of your company?
We have, I think the majority of our folks are in Honduras. But we also have people in other parts of Latin America, Costa Rica, Mexico, Peru, Argentina, and a few other countries as well. And then we have about 20 people in the U.S. Several of them are in Nashville area as well.
So that kind of goes back to the point. And I think this is something that's worthwhile, where in a traditional company, we're limited to the type of talent that we can have based on the geography. Because if you want to have people come in and they happen to live in Atlanta and you're in Atlanta, fantastic. But if that talented programmer, if that talented salesperson is in New York City or in Portland, Oregon, you're stuck. You don't have a choice. You can't hire them because you need them to come in the office. This is a different world.
That's right. That's absolutely right. I have so much to say about that, but I'm not even sure where to start. People have come to me with their concerns about remote work, because they would say, how do we know they're working? And my response is, you don't know they're working if they're sitting in that cubicle.
That's
there,
right.
So
Exactly.
the way that you know they're working is their outcomes, right? And we're always measuring outcomes. And especially as software, we're measuring what's getting completed on a regular basis.
One thing that I learned, and maybe for some of the folks out there, this for the three of us, I know this will kind of be old hat, but especially in the programming world, I've met so many developers that their peak time isn't 9 to 5. Sometimes it's 5 to 9, the next morning. Or if they get this brilliant idea at 2:00 in the morning, they're okay doing that. If I had a traditional workplace environment, I don't know many places that really want people in there at 2:00 in the morning, in a Class A facility or something. But that just seems horrible.
Well, and I agree. I agree with Colin. It's not about measuring that 8 to 5 that they work 40 hours. It's about outcome. If they can knock it out and do it in 20 hours, so be it. It just means you need to probably give them some more responsibility or more things to do if you're trying to fill them up for 40 hours. But, I used to be in charge of facilities for a company, and you're right. there were many people that showed up and worked 8 to 5. I'm not sure they really worked. I think they were there taking naps and then they would disappear and they'd get a paycheck and they come back in the next day to do the same thing, to sit in their little cubicle. And they just happened to have to do it at an office, not at remote
Let's
home.
talk about a little bit going back to the whole building the culture thing and the idea of having these events and making sure you meet together. Those are important. And I think that if we are going to have remote companies with a workforce, especially ones of your size, it's key and core to be able to develop that type of synergy. But on a daily basis, are there any tips or any piece of advice that you give to other entrepreneurs out there that are maybe struggling or really hesitating or thinking about the idea of developing the remote workforce?
Yeah. We have some alongside the core values that we have that really support that, right? That's just sort of the mindset and how we're going to approach things. We do have just some basic rules that we've accumulated over the years. For instance, you have to have a camera on. And that small thing goes a long way because people are a lot more engaged and they're less likely to be just kind of doing something else on the side. And then we find out the people that really don't like to be on the camera all the time, maybe they're just not a fit for the culture, because this is a group of people that is really engaged in the work that they do, and nobody just hangs out in this culture. It's a high performance culture. And I think that those little rules that you make along the way, we used to have a rule that you had to have a headset, but the microphones the technology has gotten a lot better over the years. So it's not a problem, but so we revisited that and got rid of it. But little rules like that help quite a bit.
I've heard of companies gamifying certain things, whether they have certain metrics, and if you hit it, you get some accolade or, little fun things like that. I don't know if you incorporate anything like that, or if you do any type of incentivization or thing like that. But I'm just curious to know if that's part of anything you guys do.
Back to trying just about everything in the world. We have tried a lot of those, incentives and things like that. I don't know if those things work nearly as much as just strong leadership bringing out the best in people. And that, as you know, as leaders, is all about having effective conversations with people, just being really present with them in the moments, understanding their concerns, holding them accountable. People love that.
Obviously, being a good listener. I mean, because to your point, when you were talking about we're going to have an office or not, getting their feedback. I mean, don't just make the decision at the high level, but listen to the workers and let them share where they're at, what's their drive, especially that remote world. They've got to provide you feedback of what's working or not.
Yep. Yeah. And we do experiment, and some things might work for a period of time and then we'll stop. We've been experimenting with different types of, all hands meetings and stand-ups where the leadership team, just lets everybody know what's going on. And then we'll get feedback, and it turns out, they don't really want to know all that. They just want to connect, or, we keep listening and keep learning and keep changing. We're not changing every minute, but we're changing consistently to continue to make it a great environment.
So Acklen Avenue is focused on remote worker. You're not saying let's move back to offices like Amazon and some of these other crazy guys.
We will never do that. We've never been in an office.
So I'm guaranteeing if Acklen's looking for people, get hold of Colin, because if you want to be a remote worker, which there's a bunch, Acklen is a great company to work for.
I'm wondering, and maybe Colin, just kind of share your thoughts with this with me, is that I think it takes a different type of leadership. It's a different type of leadership style for sure, but a different type of leader, one who is a traditional where they have a workforce that's, in their direct purview right there with them, as opposed to having a different type of leader who can command and really run an effective remote shop, right? You have to be able to let go of certain things, and you have to be willing to have certainly a great amount of trust. But I think this is an attribute for a leadership style too, I would imagine.
Which one of those? They're all attributes, definitely, of the leadership. You had me thinking about, when you said letting go, it makes me think of, we adopted EOS or a sort of a version of EOS along the way, and the right people, right seats principle is key to success and key to being able to let go. I hired a fantastic COO, Stephanie Johnson, and I would not be able to let go if she didn't grab all those balls and she was juggling them herself. I would not be able to let go. So really, and she feels the same about each department. She has, it's taken a long time, but we've got great people in every seat so that she can let go as well.
Colin, this is a wonderful topic, and I know there's so much more that Dennis and I have as far as questions for you. But I do also know that somebody out there listening to this is also going to have some questions for you that they might want to ask. If they want to get a hold of you, Colin, what's the best way for them to be able to do so?
You can go to our website, acklenavenue.com. That's ACKLENAVENUE.com. Or you could email me directly. I don't know if that's a good idea to put that on there because I might get a lot of spam, but whatever. Colin at acklenavenue.com. That's Colin with one L. And you can always find me on LinkedIn as well.
All right.
And Colin, I think you wanted to offer a special offer to listeners if they wanted to reach out to you.
Yeah, I did. We're offering free whiteboard sessions right now. And it's sort of a mini discovery where you actually walk away with a lot of value and a lot of clarity about what your product is going to be. And some of the artifacts that come out of that are a product vision map, user personas, product storyboard, and there's probably a couple of other things that I'm missing from here. But if you want to know a little bit more about that, feel free to reach out to the team and I can give some more detail about each of those things.
And when you reach out, just mention that you heard it on the podcast, and they'll help.
Super generous of you, Colin. Thank you so much for stopping by today. We appreciate it. We're going to have you back because I think there's more that we can talk about on this one. This is a great topic.
Sounds good. Thank you guys both for having me on.
Thanks, Colin.
Thanks, Colin.
Well, Dennis, that's another podcast in the can. I know that a lot of you all want to know how to get in touch with us. Dennis, what's the best way for folks to be able to get a hold of you?
Yeah, email's by far the best for me. It's Dennis J, so DENNISJ at worksolution.com. And that's WORX solution, no S at the end, so solution.com. Benny, how about you?
Yeah, same thing. Get a hold of me. My email address is benny@velocitytechnology.group. That's BENNY at velocitytechnology.group. Also for me and Dennis, you can find us on LinkedIn. Look for us on LinkedIn. Our Work From Home with Two Guys is on LinkedIn. And we also have a website, WFH2guys.com. Look us up. You'll find all the past episodes and some little bits of information that maybe we don't get a chance to talk to on the podcast. We put it out there too as well.
And definitely share us with your friends and people in your network.
Absolutely. Let us know what we can do to make this podcast your podcast. Give us some ideas. And if you'd like to be a guest, let us know. We'll talk to you guys soon.
You've been listening to WFH with Two Guys. We'll see you next time.